Hello and welcome to a special series of Blocktalk, which we're calling Blocktalk Explores. These quick listen episodes will be split by topic area, as our guests, who are all industry leaders in Scotland, will be discussing three specific industry topics. Topic number one is education and awareness of the industry and what property factors do. Number two is recruitment within the industry and any challenges that they see. And the third one is customer care. We'll release 2 episodes in week 1, and the third will be released the following week. We hope you enjoy the series, and as always, it would be great to hear your feedback. Okay, so customer service then, last question for you. How is it changing? Is the world looking for more customer service? I mean, one thing that happened in the pandemic for property factors, and this came out, I think we even discussed it on a podcast, was the number of calls into factors went shooting up because people were at home, had more time on their hands to maybe notice things or contact factors. I don't know if this is a pre and post pandemic thing, but how's customer service changing in the industry?
Yeah, so I think that this is the big challenge, and this is something that companies like your own, Brian, are going to be helping with. And I think that when you so factoring, the nature of factoring is, as you know, is that it requires, in the majority of cases, particularly if there's major decisions to be taken, to involve the community. So it's not. It differs distinctly because it's not a one-to-one. It's not always a one-to-one direct contract with an individual person. So if you look at, I don't know, for example, your phone contract, if anyone still has a landline, right? So your phone line goes down, you contact your supplier. That gets logged. Sometimes you go into an automated system, which is hilarious, and I love taunting them. I don't know if you do the same thing to AI. I think that's going to be a great thing in the future. But anyway, you go into a system there, and most of that is taken care of, and you're told, the problem's been diagnosed. If an engineer's coming, and that's all. And everything is automated, so you see all that happening and all that coming. I think there's a huge amount that factors need to do in terms of the communication about what's actually happening. And I think a lot of that will come through technology. That will massively improve the customer experience, because instead of, waiting for the call back from the manager, or, is the manager going to have time to email that back today to tell you what's going on? It'll be part of the process that you'll see that happening. So I think technology will definitely help, but there's always going to be a level of complexity in our business where you need a human hand in there to say, this is, and choose the correct tone of voice, if you like, to communicate the message. But there's no doubt in my mind that customers are looking for something more. I think our customers really enjoy, and it's the same for most factors. They still really enjoy the fact that if you call our office, you're talking to somebody. Yeah. And this is someone that you will build a relationship with or potentially over years. And it is true. A lot of our managers, they actually become friends with properly friends with our customers, because they know them. They get to know their families. They get to know all that kind of stuff, and that's really something I don't think we want to lose. But equally, there's a lot of customers that time is the issue. Time is pressure. They want to fit as much into their day as they possibly can. If they're telling us about something, they want to know, has it been acknowledged? Is it going to be dealt with? Has it been finished? What's the evidence of that? So, I think that the technological improvements are going to help greatly. And I see your cogs turning now.
Sorry, say that again?
I see your cogs are turning on this now. So
yeah, well, to be fair, we just had this conversation anyway. We've got a new release coming out, September, October time, which is all about and it's all built around the stuff you just talked about. Yeah, it's just all client facing based. Yeah, rather than you've got those back end processes, back end office processes, but it's all front facing. So yeah, and we should be running a user group on it end of the summer, I would have thought. So yeah, it's very, very interesting. And that's taken from a lot of different places, the ideas for that. So good. Okay. So what's the biggest challenge then? Or have you really covered that? What is the biggest challenge in providing customer service?
I think a lot of it's immediacy.
Yeah.
When I first started in this business, we had no email. You had a telephone, and you had a mailbox, a tray, and so the letters came in, and you had the time to think about it and to consider a response and go back. If a customer was looking for an immediate thing, it was the telephone. But now it's just everything. Your life's in the palm of your hand, literally, and the control that people enjoy now through their mobile devices is incredible. And the knowledge, the access they've got to, if you have a bad experience with your factor, and you think, well, that's not quite right. If they dealt with this the right way, look, within 5 minutes, you find out what the law says.
Yeah.
You find out what the factor has to do in these circumstances. Incredibly empowering. And factors need to be aware of that and make sure that, hopefully it never gets to that stage that the customer gets what they want first time in the way that they're expecting, and that they are satisfied with that experience. And I just think that woe betide any property factor that isn't getting that just now. It's so important that feeling that a customer has where it's the touch points. They contact, they tell you what they want. You've got to provide that. Sometimes it's not straightforward. We understand that, but there needs to be some sort of there always has to be a satisfactory experience in that immediacy. I think that's the biggest challenge. It's just being on it, straight away.
Yeah, I think the challenge is, and I find myself doing it as well. You send an email and then you expect an immediate response. You know what I mean? And you do it yourself, and you then if you don't get one that day, I have an email lying from yesterday.
But do you know what it is? Do you know what it is, Brian? It's because there's so much stuff going on in people's lives that, go back to the old letter analogy. So if you wrote a letter to your factor, that was probably the highlight of your week, to do that. So you're thinking, right, okay, I'll wait for that response to come back. And but you get so much else going on. I think a lot of the frustration is that somebody sends something, they're actually concerned they're going to forget about it, or the frustration of, they're actually pulling themselves up about it. And that's just the world that we live in, because there's just so much information flying around. I think that to me is why it's so important that we do everything we can to help.
No, you're right. And I've got that email sent from yesterday, and I'm kicking myself because I haven't answered it yet. And I've had it for less than 24 hours. That, you know what I mean? But there is there is an expectation then. Okay, so we talk about difficult conversations. That I guess this happens, in all walks of life, but certainly it's a having a difficult conversations. Well, maybe not daily occurrence, but certainly a weekly occurrence in property factoring. How do you manage those, and how do you help your employees cope with that?
So I think it's really important to have a support mechanism.
Yeah.
And a resilient strategy.
Yeah.
And this is part of the, I guess, one of the real challenges that service providers have, but particular property factors, because we, as I said, we're blessed to have such long-term relations with customers, but sometimes it can go the wrong way. And it's really important the staff feel that, and don't get me wrong, sometimes staff don't get it right, and if that's the case, we'll help them to acknowledge that to the customer and to say how we can do it differently. But if it is a case where the property manager, for example, is feeling like they don't have anywhere to go with something, then they'll get the support. We're very lucky, actually, and it's probably more to do with the layout of the office you've been in here. It's pretty open plan. We don't have a closed door policy. So, for example, you said I was one of the founders of the business, so I'm lucky that I've got this pretty good knowledge of real legacy issues and customers we've had for 20 odd years, etc. And we really want, whether it's the receptionist or whether it's the business support or the PMs or business development, whatever, everyone has to feel they are. There's no barriers for them to ask anyone in the business anything at all at any time. And believe me, it happens all the time. It can be exhausting, but it's a great thing. And I think that really, businesses need to think very, very carefully about that, particularly if they have, siloed operations within the business. And the water cooler thing, I think, is a great opportunity.
Yeah.
Having spaces, and this is where it comes back to the thing about the flexible working and people at home and everything. But having that opportunity to go into the kitchen area, and you've got your if you're a bit skint that day, our cupboards are always full. They can just go in there and just get whatever they want, and have a chat to me. And say, I've got a problem with this development, and it's X number High Street, and did you know anything about? Yeah, I used to manage that, 20 years ago. Has it still got the problem with the bull nosings on the stairs, etc. So I think the support mechanism is really, really important, but you just got to be decent people, I think, in the business, and that's such an easy thing to say, but it's such a hard thing to overlook.
Yeah, no, I get it. Okay, that's brilliant. Okay, one final question, and I hope we prompted you for this one. Tell me something about you that people would generally be surprised to find out.
I have a vintage computer collection.
I did not know that until someone actually told me that recently. Do you?
Yeah.
A vintage computer collection.
Yeah.
That must take up some amount of space given the size of computers in the past.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. I don't always have them all out at one time, but it's a source of immense fascination for my kids. And it just shows you how things have moved on. If I'm loading a game up, so great excitement, I get a new game coming through, an old game coming through from eBay that I've tracked down and it's not, and I get that in. It's like, kids, come and have a look at this. And you see them, the loading screen comes up, and sometimes it's a really special one. It's like an in-game on the loading screen before the whole thing comes up. If anyone remembers, that's back from the 80s. And you can see slow, the tension scale suddenly goes, and they're on their phones and everything. And it seems like days for them, and then suddenly the game comes up and it's rubbish. But
what's the oldest computer you have?
So I focus mainly on 80s and 90s stuff. I think actually the oldest one, I'd love to get an original Apple. But, the kind of wooden case one, I forget the name of it now. But I think the oldest one I've got is a VIC-20, but it's a really early one.
I was about to say that my first ever computer was a Commodore VIC-20.
Oh, there you go.
With a tape loading and everything like that.
Yeah.
I think I must have been, I was born in 1970. I must have been about 14 or 15.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just as bad as you remember.
It is, and all of my friends had ZX Spectrums, and they were much better.
Devilry. It's just one of my things, and I guess it's a nostalgia thing, and but it's Yeah, and actually, do you know, when I actually went through, started doing it, collecting about 15 years ago, when they cost nothing. And it's actually been an okay investment for some.
Do you know something? I was just sitting there thinking, I wonder how much these things are worth. And I wonder if my VIC-20 is still in my dad's loft. I have no idea where it is.
Cash in the attic.
Yeah, well, you never know. I doubt it. It's probably been in a bin for many, many years. Okay, Derek, well, thanks very much for coming on. That's been absolutely fabulous for having me on again. And that was some really interesting answers. Thank you.
Pleasure. Good to see you guys.